Hello everyone and welcome along to the latest episode of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, ahead of this weekend's clash with West Ham United at Turf Moor on Sunday. I think it's at 2 p.m. I'm 95% certain it's 2 p.m. I should have double-checked it before I said that. Just double-check it, guys, before you set off. I don't want to make anybody late for the game. I'm 98% certain it's 2 p.m. though on Sunday. It's going to be a tough one though for the Clarets. West Ham doing very, very well this season. They've just, last time out in the Premier League, should I say, they've just beaten Chelsea 3-2 and they deserve to win as well. They've got some very, very good players going forward. They've got some decent defenders. Although, having said that, they do have a couple of injuries at centre-back, as I'm told by Will, the West Ham fan, from the West Ham Way podcast, which, you know, you'll be able to watch and listen to in a little bit. He's on the show this week. But yeah, West Ham doing very, very well. They're knocking on the door of the Champions League. I think they currently are fourth, actually. There's been, you know, talk of them maybe qualifying for the Champions League. Ultimately, I think they'll fade, to be honest. But, you know, it just shows how well they're doing at the moment that they're even in the conversation. And for me, I don't see how anybody, if West Ham, you know, carry on the way they're doing, even if they fade and finish fifth, you know, something like that. I do think David Moyes should probably get the manager of the season, but just for the way that they're playing, the way that, you know, he's come in and completely changed it all around at West Ham. Because a lot of people were criticising the appointment. And again, that's something that Will mentions in the chat that you'll be able to watch and listen to in just a couple of minutes. So he's done very, very well as David Moyes at West Ham this time around. He did okay the first time around. He kept them up, but, you know, they were playing boring football and all that sort of thing, according to Will. So this time he's come in, he's got them playing a brand of football. Like I said, they're knocking on the door of the Champions League. They've got some very, very good players, Bowen, you know, people like that. And, you know, so the other forward lad, I can't remember his name. Antonio, he's not really in form, but, you know, he's still a decent player. So, you know, it's going to be a tough game for Burnley on Sunday. And obviously on the flip side of that, how good West Ham are is how bad Burnley are at the minute. And you know me, I do try and be a little positive. I try not to go all doom and gloom on the podcast. I am often a fence sitter. I think I'll admit that. But I do try and sort of like say things like, you know, I will be right and that sort of stuff. Ask me again on January the 15th. I'm not going to say I'm panicking. Is what I'll say now. If you follow me on the social media channels, I have started panicking that, you know, it might be the year, but I'm not going to say that, you know, I'm not one of these lads that's going to say, we're down, we're definitely down, because I don't think we are just yet. Ask me again on January the 15th after we played Leicester City at Turf Moor, because we've got a few winnable games up until then, and if we're still in the position that we are now, then I don't see how we're going to get out of it. But fingers crossed we can get some points on the board starting this weekend ahead of that run of fixtures. But Newcastle was that run of fixtures and they just looked so disinterested. That was the thing that annoyed me the most about the Newcastle game, because we have actually been playing all right and we've had some good results. You know, we went 5 games unbeaten. We got a point at 6th. All right, it wasn't the best to watch and we were dreadful going forward in that game at Wolves, but we got a point at the league leaders at the time, Chelsea. You know, we got a point at Southampton, point at Leicester, and of course beat Brentford. So, you know, there's some good results in there. But then they were just, when you put in that performance in Newcastle and that's the last thing in your mind, that's all you can think about. And they were so bad in that game against Newcastle. They were bad at the back. Obviously, Pope made the mistake. We've had that debate on socials. Having watched it time and time again, I do lean on the side of it's more of a mistake. But I just found it a little bit odd that the Schmeichel one was what's it called? It was ruled out. But I've been told that I'm wrong for that, for the Schmeichel thing. But the Pope one I do think is a mistake. And then going forward again, we just nothing. McNeil looked disinterested. Wood were miles off it, and I'm a big Wood defender. But he's been poor this season. But he has these flashes, doesn't he, where he is poor for a while and then he's class again for the next 3 months. We need him to start being class again. And Vidra comes on and gets chances and misses them. He missed one at Chelsea. All right, he scored at Chelsea, but he could have won it. And he missed one again this weekend. So, and obviously, Cornet going off. That were obviously the turning point, because we were looking all right up until that point. And as soon as Cornet went off, nothing, no ideas, nothing, no creativity, absolutely nothing. And that for me is the most worrying aspect of that game. That was the fact that they just didn't look interested for me. They just didn't. As soon as Cornet went off, they just did not look interested. And that was the most worrying part of it. I remember a few years ago when we played Everton on Boxing Day and they battered us, 5-1, 5-0. They had a big meeting after that, and Dyche changed a few things. That was their wake-up call. Newcastle needs to be our wake-up call. Funnily enough, I think actually, I might be wrong, and I'm sure as someone with a fixture list in front of them could prove me wrong and do it quite easily and probably enjoy it. But I seem to remember when we got battered by Everton that season, when we lost 5-0 or 5-1, I think we played West Ham next. And that was the game after the big meeting point. I might be wrong, but I think it is. And then we went on and beat them, I think 2-0, 2-1, something like that at the Turf. So fingers crossed we can get a similar result, but it is going to be very, very, very difficult against a very, very good and in form West Ham side. But as I've said, this week I am joined on the show by Will. He is from the West Ham Way podcast. And you'll be glad to know that I've managed to actually sit down in the office where I am now and have an actual chat with him, rather than just send him some questions like I had to do with the Wolves pre-game show and the Newcastle pre-game show. So the show is back to normal. I'm having a chat with Will, and you can hear that right now. Right, so and as promised, just like that, we are joined from Will from the We Are West Ham podcast. Thanks for coming on, mate.
No problem at all, mate. No problem at all. Lovely to be here and return the favour.
Yeah. I've just been on your show, had a really good chat. Let's hope we can have another one now. But let's get straight into it, mate. Let's talk to me about West Ham, because I'm looking at your league position and some of the results you've got recently with some, really green envious eyes. Currently sitting fourth in the Premier League, having just beaten Chelsea 3-2 in what was a fantastic game. I watched it myself. What are your thoughts on the season so far then? Because like I said, outside looking in, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Joe, I'm 30. It's the best season of my life. It's the best season it's the best football we've ever played. It's just superb. And the thing about it the most is it feels sustainable. I mean, we've beaten Manchester United away for the first time in 15 years. We've knocked Manchester City out of the Carabao Cup, a competition they hadn't lost in for 5 years. We beat Liverpool at home and then just beat league leaders Chelsea. We've beaten Tottenham as well, who's obviously a big game for us every season. It's dreamland stuff, and all that alongside winning our Europa League group with a game to spare, our first ever Europa League group stage campaign. Honestly, the things that have happened to us in recent weeks, Joe, are normally on their own season-defining things. If we beat Man United away one season, or even just sometimes doing the double over Tottenham, that's it. If we then finish 12th and go out the FA Cups in the third or fourth round and out the League Cup in our usual fashion, those things alone, it must be similar for Burnley as well, and for the type of club West Ham have been for the majority of my life. You just need little things to justify. You go to a game, however many 20 home games in a season, plus a couple of cup games. You do it on the chance, just so you're there for the one outstanding thing that happens in a season.
Yeah.
And it's just been week in, week out almost. We've had a couple of little blips, but the feeling around the club it's never been anything like it. The last season at Upton Park was good, but it just feels more sustainable now. Then we had Dimitri Payet doing his wizardry, and we had a good load of good players, and Slaven Bilic was great. But if I compare this feeling to how it was before, it just feels more sustainable, and it doesn't, unlike before, feel like we were just waiting for Payet to leave and it was all going to come crashing down. I think that the style of play Moyes has got going on, the good feeling around the club. Declan Rice is obviously our star player, but he's not in the same fashion Payet was. Declan Rice is playing well, and he's got 10 other players around him who care and are working hard at a system that works. So I've run out of superlatives on our podcast, mate. It's just absolutely once in a lifetime. Well, hopefully not once in a lifetime, but certainly once in a lifetime so far. It's brilliant.
So what, obviously you started last season well, ultimately fell away a little bit, but of course, still qualified for Europe and all that sort of stuff. What you said there, it's more sustainable. You've mentioned Declan Rice, but is it just Declan, or is it the fact that, like you said, he's got 10 players working hard around him? There's a good feeling. I mean, why is it more sustainable this season?
It's definitely not just Declan Rice. I mean, he obviously helps. He's a superb player. He's England's starting holding midfielder alongside Calvin Phillips or Henderson. But I think most people would say that he gets in ahead of those. Like, he's one of the first names on the team sheet, which is superb. But other than that, it feels very much like David Moyes at Everton of old, where he didn't really have any sort of massive superstars. He just had he instilled the message early on, particularly in this second spell, that if you want to play for me, you've got to work hard for this team first and foremost. It's one of the first things he said when he walked into the dressing room at West Ham was, if you want to play for my team, you're going to have to run. And you've got Pablo Fornals, Jared Bowen, two spectacular players up the top, who I think most other teams look at them and wouldn't necessarily go, I'd love to have those two players. But the work rate they put in off the ball is almost superior to the work they do on it. And it's not ugly. Yeah. It's not like Stoke style football. It's just those sort of things that football fans want as a given from their players, but rarely get, is putting in 100% every week. And
yeah, of course,
they're working smart and hard. And it just feels like if Declan Rice goes, which he may or may not do at some stage, someone else who might not be quite as good will slot in, but we'll still have the system is working. The system works and everyone's bought into it. So, it just feels like it could be a little bit more long-term rather than, Payet's left, what we're going to do.
Yeah, of course. What's the ceiling for West Ham then this season? What do you think you can achieve? Do you think you can get into the top 4, or do you think it's another top 7 or 8 finish? I can't remember where you finished exactly last season, but do you think it's another Europa League qualification finish at the end of the season, or do you think you can break into that top 4?
Well, we finished 6th last season, obviously qualified for the Europa League through that. And I got no... I think top 4, realistically is probably a push. Particularly, we've got the Europa League campaign. Our squad is thin. Yeah. Angelo Ogbonna and Kurt Zouma have just got long-ish term. Well, Angelo Ogbonna's is long-term. That's a season ender. Zouma's is months rather than weeks, which is our 2 superb centre-backs. And our squad is thin everywhere else. We've just got new investment from the Czech guy, Daniel Kretinsky. So hopefully there needs to be some investment in January to sustain what we're doing at the moment. So I think Champions League a couple of weeks ago, I'd have probably said, yeah. And we are still in it. We can beat anyone, as we've proved this season. Yeah. If our main contenders, before it seemed like it was just Arsenal. Now Man United have got this new manager. It looks like they'll push on. So, definitely top 6 again. But it does need investment in January. However, the way we're playing and the way it's going, it does feel special and it feels a bit magical. So if someone said to me, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility, put it that way, with 5 games of the season left for us to still be in with a shout of Champions League. I don't know, I'm not saying we're definitely going to do it or anything like that, but certainly within touch and distance, within 5 games to go. And if we get a decent run in the Europa League, which it looks like we are doing, no one will complain if we come 6th again or even 8th, really.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Europa League then? Because I know a lot of these bigger clubs, if they end up falling into the Europa League and stuff, they don't really take it seriously. They might play, not the kids, but not necessarily the reserves, but definitely a mixture. Are you boys taking it quite seriously, like as a club? And in terms of your fan base, how do you boys feel about the Europa League?
Everyone is absolutely buzzing about it, and they have been from the off. As soon as we qualified, everyone was thrilled. I got to go, I went and watched us at Genk away a few weeks ago. I wanted to do that since I was a kid, watch my team play away in Europe. We drew 2-2. Souček own goal right at the death was a bit of a killer, but honestly it didn't matter. It was just the experience. It was superb standing there with my old man watching West Ham away in Europe. It was brilliant. And that was a feeling among all the fan base. As soon as we qualified, everyone was so excited. And I think Moyes has handled it brilliantly because he's felt that message come from the fans and he's approached the competition accordingly. I think we got fortunate with the group, Rapid Vienna, Genk, and Dinamo Zagreb. We dispatched Dinamo Zagreb away, which everyone was saying was our hardest game of the group, the first game. Like I say, everyone's bought into it, and he's got that rare thing in football where the harmony seems to be throughout the whole squad, and even the players who come off the bench who aren't playing as much are coming in and playing in the style Moyes wants them to play with the right attitude and committing themselves as everyone else in the team is, and that's why we just seem to be getting results all over the place. And I think, in a weird way, the Europa League campaign is enabling Moyes to keep everyone happy because there's enough game time there for everyone to get, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Yeah, it's good to see you talk about it like that, and with so much. I could see you sort of like your eyes lighting up when you were talking about when you went to
Yeah, I
Genk.
love it.
It's good to see that. Obviously, like I just mentioned on your show, we qualified for the qualifiers, and I got to go to Olympiacos. And again, growing up as a young lad, like you said, you're 30 now, I'm 33. So growing up as a young lad, when I was watching Burnley, they were in Division 2, which is obviously what is now League 1. And you'd have never thought that you'd have seen Burnley play a competitive match against the most decorated club in the history of Greece, Olympiacos. It's insane. All right, we got beat 3-1 and there was a dodgy red card, but that memory will stay with me forever. So it's good to see that. And it is a shame when I see fans of top clubs sort of like say, I'm not really too bothered about that. Just concentrate on the league and stuff. And because it is, you can make so many memories in there, and that's what football's all about.
It's match-going fans, though, mate, isn't it? Sorry to interrupt you. It's match-going fans, isn't it? That's the thing. It's easy, and I do it as well. You get hooked into what's going on Twitter and listen to Man United and Arsenal fans. But most Arsenal fans I know who go to matches like home and away and stuff, they love it. They'd obviously rather be in the Champions League, the Europa League, but this season having none of it, they'd rather be in it. They want to be in the Europa League, perhaps a Conference League for Spurs fans. They're a bit snooty about that. But real match-going fans who love going to watch their clubs in the stadium regularly, no, I don't know anyone who's like that, who turn around and sneer at their team being in European competition, especially not West Ham after the history we've had, mate. We are not in a position to turn our nose up at it. No,
it's a good point you make there, because I do sometimes get dragged into all the crap that's on Twitter, and I'll forever say on here and sort of like slag the way that slag the way that Twitter has become off on this podcast, and sort of I always try and say, like, try not to gauge public opinion by the comments that people are writing on Twitter, because like you say, it's people that never go to the games. They might be from America or China or something like that, and they're just young lads who are just trying to sort of like wind people up. So I know what you mean. I do try and not get dragged into all of that, but yeah.
And what's the point of supporting Sorry, mate.
Sorry, go. No, I was going to say, I don't think I've ever met a fan who goes to the games who doesn't get excited about things like traveling. Even Aberdeen, we got Aberdeen, for God's sake, in the the first qualifying round. Half of the town left and went up to Aberdeen. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was class. It was really, really good. So yeah, I know what you mean by that.
I just think, what's the point of supporting a football team? The reward for coming 5th or 6th, which is the highest we've finished in the Premier League for such a long time, the reward for that is playing in Europe. What the hell is the point of going week in, week out if when you actually get the prize for coming 5th or 6th, you're not excited about it? What's the point? If you're not, if you're only going to get excited about winning the Premier League or the Champions League, you'll forever be miserable, won't you? You've got to definitely got to take the good things when they come, and the Europa League is the best thing to happen to me and a lot of most West Ham fans for ages.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that as well, because I do remember when we had Olympiacos in the last game, we hadn't started the Premier League season particularly well. We weren't doing that well in the Europa League. We drew twice against Aberdeen and had to beat them in extra time. Drew twice against Istanbul Başakşehir and had to beat them in extra time. So we weren't really doing well in that competition. We were getting beat by the likes of Fulham and Wolves, who weren't very good back then in the Premier League. And it was looking like we were going to be struggling if we got into the group stage. And I've just said to you on your podcast, it was probably a blessing in disguise that we did get knocked out, because we probably would have gone down. But Burnley fans at the time were saying, just put the kids out. Let's forget about it. Let's just stay up. But me and my old co-host were sort of like fighting on the show with people saying, what are you on about? You do this week in, week out to experience this. So it's good to hear you say that, mate. Honestly, it really, really is. Because I had that debate so many times on that page where people were just saying, Premier League. I'm like,
but what's the point?
What was last season for then? What was last season for? Just to throw it away after 6 games.
Well, exactly, honestly, mate. What is the point of trying on Saturdays if you're just going to dismiss the prize that you get? There's just no point, is there? Yeah, I'm with you.
Exactly. But anyway, let's move on then. Sort of like, I want to talk to you about David Moyes, because obviously he was at West Ham, left, and then ended up coming back. There was a few sort of like sneers from fans of opposition clubs. I remember having another West Ham fan on the show around that time. I think it was an American West Ham YouTube channel. I can't remember the exact name. And he was saying at the time, like, I'm not really sure on David Moyes, things like that. But he's come in and done very, very well. And I would presume now that the fan backing is 100% for David Moyes.
Yeah, as much as you could get. Bilic had a lot of backing, to be fair, as well. And that didn't really go. It was just a shame the way it finished up. West Ham didn't capitalise in the transfer market from the move to Upton Park to the London Stadium, and therefore, and Pyatt just didn't fancy it that season either. And Bilic all just went a bit flat, a bit quick. But Bilic still had not so much support. People knew it was the right time to go, but he still maintained love from the fans. But with David Moyes, look, I mean, I'll put my hands up, as most people did. When he was reappointed again, I was just like, what's the point? What is the point? That is just such a we're only here to stagnate move from the board. Most fans did that. But the important thing, mate, is, you'll get fans coming out now, or just pundits or whoever going, where are those naysayers who said it was no good to bring Moyes back? It's like, shut up. Everyone was well within their rights to think that was an odd appointment. That move worked well for every party. The club undoubtedly bought him back for a second time because he was one of the cheaper options. There was not a queue of Premier League teams, or indeed, there may have been lower down the leagues, to be fair, but there was not a queue of Premier League teams waiting to give David Moyes another job. Everyone says, he did well the first time. He didn't. He did okay. He kept us up, but the football wasn't great. All right, he had a team of players who wasn't his. But when we appointed Pellegrini, everyone was behind that. They were like, yeah, okay, we've kept up with Moyes. His record spoke for itself. It didn't work out at United. That was obviously over time has seemed that it's a poison chalice. And it probably wasn't a reflection on him. I think after that went wrong for him, he then I think he took the decisions and the jobs he took were too risky. He wanted to make another big statement, being the man who saved Sunderland, but they were a train wreck, weren't they? And he was thinking, my reputation can turn this round and I'll bring the reputation of the club back up. But it wasn't. The reputation of the club was on a downhill slide, and it dragged Moyes' reputation with him. He took the Sociedad job. We've seen with Gary Neville going over there as well to Spain. That's just too difficult. It's almost like just take a bread and butter job in the middle. But I think he was so hurt by the Man United thing that he wanted to quickly regain his reputation as one of Britain's best managers, which is what he was when he left Everton. That's why he got the Man United gig. And I think with that, it sort of went a bit roller coastery for him. But what he's done at West Ham, particularly, well, obviously the second time around, I think it's worked out for everyone. West Ham got a cheap manager at first. He got the chance one last chance, I think it was, to revive his Premier League reputation. Because I honestly think, mate, he would have just been, if it hadn't worked out this second time, he would have done the old classic, Sheffield Wednesday, Middlesbrough, the mediocre Championship club round, like the Warnock managerial
Warnock
round.
Bruce sort of thing.
Steve Bruce, exactly, mate. Yeah, just those mediocre Championship clubs. And that would have been him for the rest of his days, I think. So look, it worked on all parts. I'm more than happy to eat humble pie now, and I'm delighted it's worked out. And I've never been so confident and excited about a manager in time. But what I don't like is like I say, those people go, oh, you weren't saying that when he started. It's like, well, no one was really. No one was saying it that loudly because it wasn't inspiring. Fans are well within their rights to have been miffed about it. And everyone's more than happy to eat humble pie at the moment and go, yeah, I was wrong. Everyone's happy to do that because he's brilliant and we're all 100% behind him now.
Yeah, happy days. What do you think was so... Sorry, why do you think it's so different then for Moyes this time than it was the second time? You're saying the football wasn't great the first time, and I remember you're saying earlier it's the best football you've ever seen you play in your time as a West Ham fan. So what's different? Has he been given more money? Has he been given more time? Or has he just been given the chance to build his own squad this time?
I think it's one of those, such a bit of a cop-out answer, mate, but I think it's, as with most things in life, it's an accumulation of lots of different things. The main, or one of the main ones, is the squad now. It's brilliant. He's got young, hungry players with not necessarily something to prove, not like a chip on their shoulder, but who are at the beginning of their careers, who can push on. And they either drag the club with them and the club continues to hit their expectations or whatever, like Declan Rice. But Pablo Fornel's young, hungry, talented Spaniard willing to work. Jared Bowen, hungry, got a lot of time left in his career. Almost, if they wanted to, obviously we don't want that, but they could use West Ham as a stepping stone. And we've got players who are on the way up in their careers as opposed to on the way down. And the only ones, he's made some excellent decisions on players he's got rid of. Sebastian Haller and Felipe Anderson were really political ones. They were both getting 140-ish grand a week, both come in for between 40 and 45 million quid, weren't doing it. And there were so many fans going, they see the price tag and it's, we're not playing to Haller's strengths. And now he's gone to Ajax. It's all sneery. He's scoring loads of goals. It's like, it's completely the wrong way to look about it, to build a team around two players just because they would cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like the ability to cut your losses is such a valuable and underrated thing in football, I find. All the big clubs do it. But the idea, and there is a bit of that among West Ham fans, that if you get any transfers wrong, you're a complete and utter shambles. You don't know what you're doing. Think of all the failed players Man United have had. Juan Sebastian Veron, Diego Forlan, Tottenham, Roberto Soldado, for all the Gareth Bales and Modric's they've had. Arsenal, Nicolas Pepe, look at him. Like, the big clubs don't just stop trying or stop going out in the transfer market because they spend big money on a player and he doesn't work. They go again. They cut their losses, get as much money as they can. They go again, don't they? So I think that's a huge thing. Getting out some bad apples, some dead wood as well. And it's just, Craig Dawson coming in. I was going, what are we doing? What's the matter? But he's been one of our best players the last 2 seasons. He's just got the blend right. He's obviously he's got an ability to highlight the players who are a bit older, the Dawsons, the Fabianskis, the Ogbonas even Cresswell. Cresswell's playing the best football of his career, and he was superb for us before. Got a big injury. Everyone thought he was going to be out. It's just that perfect blend. He's bringing players on. He's got the right blend of youthful desire. It's just everything he seems to touch turns to gold, mate. And like I say, the main thing it seems to me on the pitch is just the players are working hard. It's the best football I've seen in my time because it's winning football where every single player cares about the shirt. And it seems like such a basic way of talking about football, but that is how most football fans just want the players to care as much about the shirt as we do. That's what fans want, isn't it? Ultimately. Yeah. And we have got that, not just the 11 on the pitch. Every single man in the squad cares about West Ham and cares about doing well for West Ham this season. And it shows in their work rate in games, both on and off the ball. It's just a joy at the moment. It's just, I haven't got enough words for it. It's just great.
Yeah, so a lot going right on the pitch for West Ham, but it seems like a lot started to go right off it as well. Obviously, there was a lot of disjointment. Is that even a word? I think it is. About when you left Upton Park and then you obviously went to the London Stadium. It felt, even as an outsider looking in, it just felt like the stadium didn't fit the club. You didn't want to be there. It was more of an Olympics sort of like place rather than a football place. But I've not been since. I've not been for a while. Of course, actually, it all came to a head actually for the Burnley game a few years back when we did 3-0 there, and obviously everyone's poured onto the pitch, went after Golden Sullivan. That was actually very interesting to watch at the time. And then fans were planting corner flags in the centre spots and things like that. But now you look at it, and it looks like you're enjoying being there. It's looking like it's it is your home. Does it feel like that to you? Does it finally feel like it's your home?
Yeah, I think it's improving for lots of different reasons. Just purely like the way the stadium looks is improving. At first, it was very much Olympic-y, but just little touches. Everyone takes a mickey out of it. But we've got like the claret and blue surround around the pitch now. They've made vast improvements to the area outside the ground with bars, and they've got like like DJ stands and things like that. Sounds a bit tacky, but it's like decent. It's good. But the main thing, mate, is we've started creating memories there now. The atmosphere for the Chelsea game, I was annoyingly had to work, but for the Chelsea game, but the Liverpool game a couple of weeks ago was phenomenal. Leicester earlier in the season was great. And I think that was always going to happen. The more time we spent there, again, it's a bit of everything. The more memories you make. Me and my dad, for example, we've moved seats 3 times now. I've always gone with my dad, always sat with him at Upton Park. We sat in the same seats from my first game when I was 4 to when we left 5 years ago when I was 25 or whatever. The same seats and the same route to the ground, all that sort of thing. So there was a little bit of you had to sort of work all that out again when we moved.
Yeah.
We've done our third seat move now, and finally we've sort of got the what we like from games there. The atmosphere's great where we sit, the view's good, and the people around us are nice. And all those things take a bit of time, but the team on the pitch is winning, mate. That was the deal, right?
Yeah.
That was the deal in the first place. Move away from your spiritual home. None of us had a choice. Don't let anyone tell you any of us did. There was any consultation periods. It's PR guff. No one had a choice. We were moved against our will, right? I wanted to stay. Most people did. However, the deal was implicit deal. If we rip you away from your spiritual home, you'll have a football team that is better on the pitch, which you're not used to.
Yeah.
And for 5 years, that wasn't the case. So fans were rightfully angry. And you saw it come to the head of that Burnley game. You won't find me condemning any people who were angry about the state of West Ham because they felt cheated and they felt wronged. We didn't mind being an average football club before because we're at home we loved and that was the club we were all used to. But we had to give something, which was moving away from our home. But the bit we wanted in return, which we were told we would get, we didn't get. Anyone in any walk of life would be annoyed if that happened. If you went into a shop and paid for something and you didn't get it in return, the thing in return, you'd want your money back or you'd be annoyed, wouldn't you? That's how it works. Society's built on trades. And so it's finally working out on the pitch. And that's all me and loads of people wanted. There's still those who hate Gold, Sullivan and Brady, but they've become they've gone from the vast majority to a massive minority. And most people like me are just enjoying going to West Ham. It's the only club we've got. We can't do anything about the stadium up to park knocked down. Most of us now just enjoying going with our friends and family to a stadium that is the one we've got, and our team is playing well and we're proud of them. That's the way it is, really, mate. That's the only way I can think about it.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's look ahead to the weekend then. Obviously, West Ham doing very, very well. Burnley, not so much. Don't want to get too much into that. Like I was saying on your show, I try and be a little bit more positive on here than sometimes I think they deserve, which is what I'll say after the Newcastle result. How do you see this one going then? In fact, before we get into the predictions and stuff, you've mentioned already how good Rice is, and I think Rice is going to be probably the man of the match, the standout performance, because he's obviously plays in the centre of the park, and that's where we are at our weakest, and that's where we've lost games several times this season. So I think Rice will absolutely run the show. And then obviously you've got your forward two as well, which you've already mentioned as well. They've got pace, they've got power, and I think our defence can struggle against pace and power. So I know I've just said I try and be positive, but I think sometimes you also got to try and be realistic. And I think this game is going to be a very, very tough one for Burnley. However, it would just be the most typical Burnley thing in the world if we went and won this match, just a result out of absolutely nowhere. But, I think Declan Rice will have far too much fun in the middle of that park. But you've mentioned Rice, you've mentioned your forward two as well, Fornals and Bowen. Is there anyone else that we should be looking out for in terms of sort of like danger men and things like that as Burnley fans?
Well, to give you something to hold on to, a bit of hope, mate, Antonio can't hit a barn door at the moment. I don't know what's happened to him. Just seems really off the pace. Really disappointing. Hasn't scored in 9, I think it is, after a superb start to the season. Kurt Zouma and Angelo Ogbonna are out. Long-ish term. They certainly won't be playing this weekend. So it's Diop and Dawson. Dawson's great. Diop can be sketchy. So it's very much our B team centre-back partnership. It looks like Vladimir Soufal will play at right back. He's been literally flawless since he came into the club. Aaron Cresswell is another danger man as well. His set pieces this season have been superb. Anyone who plays fantasy football is likely to have him because we've been all right for a clean sheet, and he takes the corners, takes some of the dead balls as well. And we've looked less so this season, but we're good from set pieces. That's a big part of Moyes' game plan, and Cresswell's a huge part of that. So that's the other thing. Obviously, on the ball, we are threatening with Fornals and Bowen. Benrahma's gone off the pace a bit. I don't expect him to start. I expect it to be Lanzini, and I'm so glad he got a chance. Another man who's just playing like really well under Moyes after fans thought his career was done. Played against Chelsea at the weekend, so I expect it'll be that. It'll be Souček and Rice at the base. And then Lanzini at the 10, and then Fornals on the left, Bowen on the right. It will be Antonio up top, purely based on the fact we haven't got anyone else. I think outside of the ones you mentioned, Cresswell's the one you want to watch out for. And then, the Dawsons and the Diops and the Součeks who provide the aerial threat on the end of those killer dead balls.
Yeah. Normally, you mentioned that obviously you've got your two centre-halves out. That would normally fill me with quite a bit of confidence. But this season, we're just not creating anything. It's been weird. Obviously,
Chris Wood will score.
We scored 3 against Palace, who, the media darlings at the minute, and we did quite well there. We scored 3 against Brentford, who were the flavour of the month at the time. But then since then, and we went 5 unbeaten, but since then, we've just been we were dreadful against Wolves, or even worse against Newcastle. And I'm not really sure where the creativity has gone, because I felt that this season, the creativity was better and the goals were flowing a bit better, but the defence weren't as good. And then it's kind of gone back to what it was with the forward play. But then the defending is still not the best. It's not as good as it has been in previous seasons anyway. Look at Nick Pope making a mistake against Newcastle the other day. But we'll get into predictions then. I'll let you take the reins on this one, because obviously you're going to be going to this with loads of confidence. I'm not going to be in it with any confidence. So I'll let you give your prediction first, mate.
Well, as I mentioned about the defenders there, mate, I've just got a feeling Diop particularly has got a mistake in him. Chris Wood absolutely loves a goal against West Ham. So I do back you to score, but I think, or I'm hoping certainly, that we'll be too strong going forward. We've got that dead rubber in the Europa League Thursday. Dinamo Zagreb at home. We'll be able to rest players because we've already won the group. So I'm going to say 3-1 to West Ham. Yeah,
fair enough. And like I said to you on your show, I do try to be a little bit more positive when I'm doing my own show. But I think that Newcastle one, I'm recording this in a bit of a bad week, in a bit of a mood still when I think about the football. And you've seen rumours today that Newcastle have said they're going to double James Tarkowski and Ben Mee's salary if they went to Newcastle in January. So that's probably going to unsettle players. I'm just in a bit of a mood about it all at the minute, and I'm not expecting anything other than a West Ham win this weekend. So I'm going to go 2-0 to West Ham. I can't see us scoring simply because of the lack of creativity that we've shown in recent games. But thank you for coming on the show, buddy.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure. Always like talking to you guys and the Burnley fans in general. As I said, it's my favourite claret and blue derby of the season. Villa, eat your heart out.
Yeah, and you're coming up as well, aren't you? So you'll be on the game.
I'll be at the game on Sunday. Looking forward to it. Me and my dad have made it's a bit of a traditional one for us now. When we went to Burnley first time, don't know, probably 10 years ago, I think, got a win. And we try and go every season. Burnley away is the one we always earmark and do. One of my favourite grounds. Good group of fans who love their club. And it's one I always enjoy. And we do tend to always seem to do all right. So that's not too
you can
bad.
You could tell you're a proper fan and not just a Twitter keyboard warrior.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
I normally always recommend the cricket club to fans that are coming up, but obviously
been there before.
I'm going to say, it must be a common place for you to be going. If you come up often, it's the place where most away fans go.
Yeah, we've done a couple on there. I think the last time I was chucking it down with rain and there was still people standing outside next to the field. So
it was chucking it down. It was chucking it down when we started recording. It's stopped now, but I'm sure it will be this weekend, mate. It always is.
We're getting the train up, we'll be nipping in there.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. And obviously there's I think away fans sometimes go in the pub near the train station. I'm not sure. There's a pub across from the train station. I'm not sure. But just before we go, do you want to give people a shout so they can all know where to find you and where to listen and watch you and that sort of thing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we are West Ham. Main thing is a podcast. We've got the YouTube channel as well, which we clip up a few of our more interesting segments of the podcast, including the opposition view, mate. So you'll be on there. Yeah, but it's We Are West Ham podcast on your normal platform, same as you guys, no doubt. If you fancy giving us a listen this week, and we've got 4 games to cover, 2 to look back on, 2 to look ahead to, including the Burnley one. So pack stuff if you like listening in to the opposition views.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, like I said, thank you very much for coming on. And of course, we'll be back next week after the West Ham game. Before whoever we've got next, I'll just quickly, in fact, I've only got the West Ham fixtures up. I haven't got the Burnley ones up. So we'll be back soon. And thank you again for coming on, mate. And I'll speak to you in the second half of the season.
See you, mate.